Alright, we're back with the next item on the menu called Props Brush. It puts up this whole slider menu up there. Um, what this menu puts on the map are debris like stones, coffee cups, the kind of stuff you kick around, soda cans. But it does it with kind of a paintbrush approach, so you don't have to put every single one on there. And you can define the size of the paintbrush, which will snap to surfaces real nice. You can see this one's pretty high. For grass, you don't want it high. For deleting things, like textures that are float in mid-air that you see sometimes, you want it really high. So let's get it nice and low. Diameter right now, 1.8 meters. It's a little much, 1.2. Get it down to, I want to put some soda cans on there. Density about 2. Okay, so I'm going to select some items on this list. And you can use the control key to select more than one so it randomly mixes them. So stone, pipe, bricks, coffee mug, and some crushed coffee mugs. All this stuff above the cactus here is kind of dirty debris. People have dropped things here. See, I'm painting them, and it puts about 3 with each mouse click on there. If it's too much, you right click. What's within that box, like this crushed coffee cup, gets removed. I don't want that pipe there, but that looks about nice. 3 pieces on the ground. A little debris here on the side of this pile. These will actually roll down once you walk near them. That's when you hear soda cans rolling around. It's not enemies kicking them. It's a can that's laying on the side of this hill. When you actually run the game, it has physics and it rolls down, and that's what you hear. So this is pretty much the basics of the properties brush. You can't put too many on there. I'm trying to overlay this here and it won't let me right now without increasing the density. So if I want a lot of crap here, I just increase the density, or I can right click and just put one spot there. There's one glitch with this whole thing. If you're far away, it doesn't matter what your density is. See how I don't see it here until this. At this elevation, it doesn't matter if I go density really low. I click once and it puts a real big batch there. Let's clean that up. There's nothing there. I click in the blind. I see nothing. I go down. Holy cow, it's totally filled. So if you ever see really big piles of these things, that's probably what happened while making a map. So it doesn't look right. So density, usually something you want to keep nice and low. It's almost too much. 1 to 1.5. You can get it so low down that it only puts 1 piece each time. And you have to spread that all over the map. You can easily spend on this little map half an hour. Let's do grass, which is much more interesting. Because these little grass pieces that grow on the edge of buildings and around fences, they really add realism. And they can be painted pretty quickly or one at a time. Big surface like this, I usually don't do much. But on the edges of a building where people wouldn't walk so frequently, you can go in there with this thing and adjust your radius, make it nice and small, very targeted. Density, a little higher so it gets nice and thick. And you just put a piece of grass wherever you want this stuff in the corners to grow. And even though it looks like this is stupid, this is where you spend the hours on making a map that looks good. You gotta do this or the whole thing will look like cheap, quick and dirty. That's a good reason why I repeat using maps that have been made, because it takes so much time to do these things. Because this is a really small map, tiny compared to many others, and even then it probably would take me half an hour to finish just the grass here. So let's move on to the next menu item. There's all kinds of things here, from sewer smoke. Here, let me give you an idea of click once, done, and there comes the heat waves. It's smoking out of the sewer. Something really, really nasty burrito like is in there. Boy, they don't eat well down there. You can put flyers on the wall. All this stuff you've seen before. That's in these menus. You can put antennas on buildings. These get painted on like, something you brush on. Smoke coming off the building. There's no smoke in this chimney. We can change that. Well, this chimney doesn't want to be painted on. But, there might be some smoke coming off the middle of this. Right there. I just painted it. There it comes. You can't really see when you're on the street where this is coming from. And maybe maybe some smoke on top of this one that has no real source. You can do a lot of smoke, 2, 3 of these. And there's different types of smoke too. You can use it for fires, burning vehicles, for example. Let's go back to the burning vehicles. They're down at the bottom. Wreck burning van. Let's show one here in the corner here. That's already burning by itself. But if you want more smoke, you go back to the props brush, take one of those building smoke deals, and paint that under it, and boy, you're going to have a real smoky one here. You can barely tell. There's more smoke coming. See, it's building down there. So this would make this whole area very hard to see. You want to use these things carefully. Okay, so much about props brush. Next, graffiti. Same idea, but this time we're doing things like this. And you've seen those before. Millions of them. You can go left click and just pick a whole bunch of them, and it'll randomize everyone. Every time you click, it'll be something different. And that gets pretty fast. If you don't like it, right click, erase. So that's how you get graffiti on things. You just paint them. You can have more than one show up, but usually you want to be very selective where you put these to make it look real. Tag places. After the graffiti, sky. We didn't talk about that other than the very beginning. The sky can actually be rotated. So if I stop it and use my cursor key, stop my mouse, so I'm in this mode, I can rotate where the sky is, which actually matters once you render the light maps. It puts the sun in back or in your face. It renders the shadows in the direction that sun position would actually be in. But don't ask me where north and south is. It usually is... Where's our guy here that's standing on the side of the road? I think he looks to the south. I'm pretty sure he does. So where's our sun? It's totally north right now? Well, let's get it down here. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it looks in a different direction. We'll never know. So that's sky environment. You pick what type of sky you want off this menu, and just... This would be a night map. Mission 11 is very dark. There's just barely any light. That's the one with the really harsh lit up areas. Mission 12 is a day map. You just pick till you really won't know what it looks like until you render this, but you can always change it later on and do it again. Small maps don't take long to render. So next menu item, sound. You usually don't do much here. If you go up high now, you see these red orbs floating. This is the generic sound stage. If your map goes beyond these, you actually have to go in and move these. And I usually do this in the text. I don't think you can just grab them. You have to make that space that this triangle forms large enough that your map fits in there. My map is right now just this space, and it's kind of in between. I mean, I would probably want them to be a little more over here. You can also go in here and create new sounds like birdies in trees and frogs in sewers, but that's a lot of work. You right click here and there's a sound. The thing is, you need to have an idea what it's called. I think birds, a bird is one, but you can't mistype this. If you use something that doesn't exist, the map will crash. There's a whole list I can give you of what exists, and it's tedious, but you can move it around actually. Where you thumb click it up here is where that sound originates. So you can add a little more life, but that's a lot of work. I've done that very rarely. It's something you don't really have to worry about as long as there's sound on the map from the generic sounds. It's good enough. Next, we're going to look at the multiplayer settings, which sets the actual game dimensions and the crop area of where your minimap is photographed from. And that is actually something you cannot set inside the game. You have to do that outside if it's not big enough, like in this case. I'll show you that in the next segment. Save it. Resume. End the recording.